Dr. C here. So now that you know the difference between the mobile phase and the stationary phase, now we're going to move on to the actual experiment. And so the first step here says to obtain 2 clean and dry 60 ml beakers, and we're going to label them with our 2 mobile phases. So here we're going to use a slightly salty solution as 1 mobile phase, and then isopropyl alcohol for our second mobile phase. So we'll get to see what the mobile phase, how it affects what we're doing. I already cleaned them, they're already dry, and so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take 10 mils of each of these solvents and put them in our beaker and cover them up with a watch glass. Okay? So I'm not going to label my beakers, I'm just going to keep my stuff very separated, put the bottle next to it so I know. Okay? Now, the reason that we want to do this first is because we want to make sure that we have our liquid in our beaker before we start doing anything. The reason that we want to do that is because once the liquid gets in here and I put my watch glass on, it's going to start to slightly evaporate. And so then there's going to be a little bit of that gas in the chamber. And that is going to help for my mobile phase to kind of go up my chromatography paper faster than if I had just dumped it in right away. So that's kind of why we're making these little chambers. All right, so I need 10 mils, so I put my isopropyl alcohol in my beaker. I'm gonna pour it in. And then I'll use a pipette so that I can be more accurate and get right there where my meniscus is. Now, one of the things about paper chromatography is we're not as worried about getting exactly 10 mils, but I got it anyway. But we want 10 mils. The main reason we're doing that is because we don't want too much in our beaker here. We want just enough to kind of have a liquid on the bottom. We actually don't want to be too much because then it's already like soaked up if we put it all the way up here. It's got to travel up. All right, so one of them's done. Let's move on to our next one. This is our salt solution. So same thing. Just putting 10 mils in there. Make sure I poured enough. Different graduated cylinders since we're using a different solvent here. Whoop. We'll just do the opposite technique called the suction. There we go. So got my 10 mils. Dump that into my other beaker. Okay, and now I have my 2 beakers, my 2 chambers ready for my chromatography. So on the next video, we're gonna get our chromatography paper ready to go.